On this episode of Virginia Sports Report, we are going to discuss whether Liberty University football coach Turner Gill will be on the hot seat this offseason. We will also be discussing Virginia Tech football and what their fans should be expecting with the upcoming season. And Mike McDaniel from inside the ACC will join us. This is Virginia Sports Report, and we start right now.
From 46 yards, Rackey to win it. On the way, Ethan Rackey, and he got it! James Madison survives!
Snap good, spot good.
Oh, it's blocked! Liberty wins it! Liberty blocked it! Oh my goodness! The Flames have done it!
360 in the contract, never that. I just take the contact, I bring it back. I'm running on the fast break, behind the back.
This is Virginia Sports Report. We are brought to you out of Roanoke, Virginia. Thank you for making us a part of your Wednesday evening. It is great to have you with us. I am joined by my co-host, as always, Chris Mason. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, CJ. How's it going?
Good. Chris, by the way, will be giving us updates on a very important matter going on throughout the night. So happening right now, Liberty Flames baseball are playing in Charlottesville against the UVA, and so we will have score updates throughout the evening. So if you catch a recorded version and you know the score, I apologize. If you're listening to us on Facebook, though, we will have these updates for you. So, Chris, what is our first update of the night? What's their score?
UVA up 4-0. Might be a pretty boring game. Top of the third.
All right, UVA up 4-0. Top of the third. That doesn't sound good if you're a Liberty fan. Not a good start.
If you're a Liberty alumni, you may not enjoy that.
Although I tell you what, Liberty was down 3-1 against Virginia Tech softball the other night, and hit a grand slam, came back to win that game 5-3. Liberty on the diamond, doing well so far this season. Let's stick on the topic of Liberty for a moment. This is our last show, by the way, of the season. So this is our last show of the spring. We will be back in the fall. Next show will be late July, that last Wednesday of July. And of course, then we'll be in full swing of football season, which I'm very excited about. And there's something interesting happening in the state of Virginia with football season. So JMU is coming off of back-to-back national championship appearances. They won one a couple of seasons ago. Old Dominion has been great past several seasons in football. This past season, they were in a bowl. They've been fantastic. Virginia Tech football, I think we would all argue, is in very good hands with Justin Fuente. We'll get to that in a minute. And then UVA football, while it wasn't a fantastic season by any means this past year, you can see the growth. And I think most UVA football fans are like, hey, we're probably going to be in a bowl this season, and next season we could be really competitive in the conference. So you would make the argument that those four programs are in really good shape. Now, the top five biggest programs in the state, I would say one is Virginia Tech, two is UVA, three is Old Dominion, and then four, I would say, is a tie between Liberty and JMU, and I think Liberty's probably going to surpass JMU now that they're moving up to 1A. But Liberty being where they are football-wise is a very interesting predicament. Because Liberty's football coach, head coach Turner Gill, is very much on the hot seat. So Turner Gill last season went 6-5. Season before that, he went 6-5. He's pretty much been 6-5 his entire coaching career with the Liberty Flames. Only two seasons were they different. One 9-5 in the FCS playoffs. Another they went 8-4 and missed the playoffs. Liberty fans last year wanted him fired, and they didn't fire him. And this will be Liberty's first year transitioning into FBS football. It's a very important year. And here's the important things for Turner Gill to keep in mind as he goes about his season this year. Everybody's going to be going at Liberty. Okay, first of all, Liberty wasn't invited into FBS football. They weren't. They weren't invited by Conference USA or Sun Belt or anything like that, or the MAC. Liberty forced their way in by threatening a lawsuit to the NCAA, who then allowed Liberty to pursue transition into FBS football. Liberty's going to be an independent. And furthermore, Liberty's not doing any of this quietly. No, Liberty came out, and this year they're going to open up with Old Dominion. They're going to go at Army the week after. They're going to play Troy, who's a very big program down in the South. They're going to play at UVA, and they're going to play at Auburn. Those aren't easy games. Those are headline games. And by the way, who announced the schedule? Donald Trump did at commencement. Next year, Liberty opens with Syracuse. They will play Buffalo. They will play Maine. They will play at Rutgers, at BYU, and again at UVA. These are big games. And the interesting thing is Turner Gill was 6-5 past 3 seasons with Liberty. And last year they finished 4th in the Big South. 2015 they finished 3rd in the Big South. 2016 they tied for 1st. That's the Big South Conference. That's Gardner-Webb, who's in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. They play in a city called Bowie's Creek. Most people can't pronounce it. They play against teams like Presbyterian, who sports the nickname the Blue Hose. That's not even a joke. That is literally their nickname. They play teams like Charleston Southern, whose stadium seats about 1,500. If you've ever been there, it's smaller than most high school stadiums. It's not even the biggest stadium in its own town. And now Liberty's going at Auburn and at UVA, hosting Syracuse, opening with ODU. Listen, the hype is great right now. They're adding to the stadium, they're expanding it, all of that's very, very exciting. But if Liberty comes out and the performance on the field is flat, I'm going to make the argument that all of that hype, all of that excitement's going to go away very, very quickly. And Turner Gill, even if he has a good season this year, they're not winning a lot of these games. You're not going to beat Old Dominion. You're not going to beat Army at Army. You're not going to beat, I don't think you're going to beat Troy. I don't think you're going to beat UVA. And I don't think you're going to beat Auburn. Well, you're not going to beat Auburn. You're definitely not going to beat Auburn. Best case scenario, Liberty goes 4-8 this year. And I think 4-8, when you consider all of the things Liberty is trying to do, and you consider all the money Liberty is investing into athletics, although we would consider 4-8 to be good, I'm going to make the argument I believe Turner Gill is potentially being set up to be fired at the end of the year. And if you think about it, the perfect time to bring in a new coach when you're in Liberty's position would be the year after your first transitional year. Because the expectations are going to be low if you're coming off of a 4-8 season. And, by the way, there's an increase in scholarships that Liberty will be able to access their second year into this transition. So the new coach would have more scholarships and be able to bring in his own players. I'm looking at this, Chris. I think Turner Gill, I look at ODU, they've got the coach. JMU's got their guy, unless JMU's guy decides to leave. UVA, I think, has their coach. And Virginia Tech is going to do whatever they can to keep Justin Fuente around. I think the one spot in the state where there could be a vacancy at the end of next football season is at Liberty University. Am I crazy?
No, I think after this season, Liberty might threaten a lawsuit to get out of Division I football because they're going to get creamed with that schedule. Now they're going to win a couple of games, but I don't see 6 wins on there. I mean, that's tough.
Well, by the way, Norfolk State I don't think is automatic. They've played Norfolk State before. Norfolk State came into Lynchburg and beat them a few seasons ago. I do think they'll win that one. I think they should beat North Texas, and they play New Mexico State twice, which you don't ever play anybody twice in college football. Maybe they split those games, and they'll beat Idaho State and Lynchburg. Those are really the only games I'll see them winning. I don't see them going into Army and winning. I don't see them going into New Mexico and winning. And I don't see them going into UMass, UVA, or Auburn and winning. And by the way, Auburn is at the tail end of that 3-game road trip. That's not going to be easy.
They're going to get beat by 80 points. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
But now there is, CJ, you just went viral. There's this huge push out for you to become the next head football coach at Liberty University.
Me?
So, yeah, it's big in our comments. I mean, everybody's calling for it. So.
Well, I'm going to deny that there are rumors of me being contacted as the next Liberty University football coach.
All the fans are calling for it.
Well, I did have incredible success as a mascot coach, so I'm not sure what skills would transition from mascotting to football head coach, but there's got to be a tie-in somewhere.
Easy tie-in, yeah. That's
yeah.
Done.
So here's the other thing. So Virginia Tech this past season, went 9-3 in football, made their bowl game, but there were a lot of Virginia Tech fans criticizing Justin Fuente at the end of the year. I said, Tech fans, you're absolutely insane to criticize Justin Fuente. He is now in his, this will be his third year with Virginia Tech. I think 9-3, 8 to 9 wins a year is really good for Virginia Tech. I think that's where they should be. Is there any chance that, let's say Virginia Tech wins only 7 games, is there any chance Justin Fuente could be on the hot seat just knowing, and again, I like Justin Fuente, I know you like Justin Fuente, but let's just take into perspective Virginia Tech fans who I think have higher expectations than they should for their program. Is there going to be some discussion of Virginia Tech should move on from Justin Fuente if they aren't winning 10 wins this year?
Yeah, so if you've listened to this podcast in the past, you know I'm not a hater of Virginia Tech, but a majority of the fan base around here thinks that Virginia Tech is much more of an elite program than they really are. Thinks that they can get the top of the line head coaches to come here, and it's just not true. Fuente is as good, and I've said it before, I think he's the best hire for the program. They will not only win 7 games in a season. I mean, not by any means, unless something happens on that program that is unexpected. But they're never going to go undefeated. Shouldn't say never. Not in the upcoming history will they go undefeated. They're going to lose 2 or 3 games this season. Probably lose at Florida State. Probably lose to Notre Dame here in Blacksburg. And then, the other one I could throw in there would be a Miami that could
Miami's
come up
tough
here and beat them. So, it's going to be a pretty typical season for Virginia Tech this year. And even if they only won 7 games, Fuente will still have this team for another season after that, maybe even 2 seasons, only winning 5, being a 500 head coach. He has some leeway. With this, but he can only go so far before they throw him out of Blacksburg and bring in somebody else. But I don't see that happening.
Well,
I think he's going to be here for a number of years.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. I don't think it's impossible for Virginia Tech to go undefeated and play in the college football playoff. I certainly think that's within the realm of possibility. But Virginia Tech is just not in the same discussion right now. They're not the same tier as even Clemson or Miami or Notre Dame. And I don't consider any of those 3 teams right now to be in the top tier among college football. So, I love Virginia Tech, but right now you're kind of a tier 3 school. And, I'm sorry, but when you play Miami, I watched that game this year. There were 2 games this year Virginia Tech played, Miami and Clemson. And it was evident about the first 5 minutes of that game, Virginia Tech does not physically match up with either one of those teams. And I think that's the big issue with Virginia Tech right now, whether it be for local reasons and just where they are geographically, whether it be for just the way your program is seen by other high school teams in the country. Virginia Tech doesn't have access to the type of athletes that even a Clemson has access to right now. And I think that's a big concern.
Yep, very much true. By the way, if you're a listener of us and you think CJ should be the next head coach of Liberty, please use the hashtag CJ, the number 4HC, and that will get CJ into the head coaching spot at the University of Liberty.
By the way, we are taking a short break. We just went off of Facebook Live. So I'm going to try and bring us back to Facebook Live. On the other side of this break, we will also have on Mike McDaniel from inside the ACC. We will be bringing him on. It should be a really good interview. He does a very good job. We've had him on before. So give me a minute here. We were just disconnected from Facebook Live. We're going to do our best to bring it back. We will be back in just a couple of minutes. This is Virginia Sports Report.
I spend a lot of time in the backyard, and I'm the center of attention at summer barbecues. In '96, I made some of the tastiest s'mores you've ever had. In '01, we stayed up all night telling ghost stories with the neighbors. Yeah, I know I've got a bit of wear and tear. And sadly, in '09, it was me, your backyard fire pit, that accidentally started a wildfire. When a summer breeze carried one of my embers into some dry brush.
Sparks from an improperly extinguished fire pit can start a wildfire. Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Well, we were definitely having some issues here, so we were working on getting Mike McDaniel on the podcast. I do apologize for all of the issues. This was certainly not anticipated, but every once in a while things do happen. So we're working on that, trying to get us back on Facebook Live. In the meantime, Chris, can you give us an update on that Liberty UVA baseball game?
Yep, pulling it up now. Let's see, 4-0 still into the top of the fourth. So for UVA has a handle on this game so far with a man on and up 4-0.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Liberty has a man on.
So Liberty with a man on 4-0, and you said it's top of the third?
Top of the fourth.
Yeah, this would be interesting. This would certainly be interesting. UVA baseball has not been good this year. I mean, they're sitting at 6-10 right now in ACC play. And this is kind of a storied program. You know, they've got a national championship. They've been very competitive in the ACC in the past. So it's very unusual to see them struggling the way they are. By the way, we are back streaming on Facebook Live. Trying to get Mike McDaniel on the podcast. Had some issues there with the video feed. I do apologize for that. But we're going to try and see if we can get some of these things fixed. So if you're on Facebook, please let us know if you can hear us. Let us know if you can see us. I know you can hear the ringing in the background. We'll try and get that muted for now while we bring on Mike. Again, for those of you watching on Facebook, UVA is up 4-0 on Liberty. They're in the top of the third. It's going to be very interesting football season. I'm having some issues getting Mike on, so we'll hope he calls us back here. Should be a very interesting football season. JMU, by the way, has been in the championship game for the past 2 years. This year they returned a lot of guys. Here's the question, though. How difficult would it be to get a team back to the championship game 3 straight years? Now, we've seen North Dakota State go, 6 straight years winning a national championship. We've not seen JMU do this before. Are they kind of walking on uncharted territory trying to get back to the championship game for a third time?
Yeah, they have, I think an uptick in their schedule, definitely with playing NC State to kick off the season, so that's going to be a tough game for them.
Yeah.
A couple of other tough games. They usually play Richmond. That's on their schedule again. Usually a very tough team. And then Rhode Island, New Hampshire, both those teams can play tough games as well too. So is it possible? Yes. Are they likely to do it? I'd say it's they've got a good chance. I don't know if it's 50-50 or not, but because to get back to that high quality is always tough. But I say they have a nice chance of making a run, at least to push for it, and having a chance to make the playoffs games again.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think JMU could go toe-to-toe with NC State for a good 3 quarters and give them a game. It's always hard for an FCS team to do that because they're at a they don't have the same amount of scholarships. But, at the same time, JMU has been so competitive, and we have seen them win those games before. Another big, by the way, opening weekend games in the state of Virginia are absolutely great. Liberty's going to open up with Old Dominion. Virginia Tech opens up with Florida State. And then in-state game, Richmond will go to Charlottesville to play UVA. Richmond in the second year under their head coach, they go to UVA. I think UVA probably wins that game, but those two teams have been known to go at it before. Richmond has been known to play them tough before. I think that's a great game to open up the season with. Chris, week after that, UVA is going to play at Indiana. They've got Louisville just a couple of weeks after that. Is it possible we will have an opening week upset with Richmond traveling there to Charlottesville and that kind of being Richmond's, Super Bowl besides any success in the FCS?
I don't see them winning that game. That would be a tough win for them. Again, I don't think they have the manpower. Like you say, they may be able to play the first half with them, but then once kind of the longevity, I guess, endurance of the game wears on them, they won't be able to hang with a much more high-powered UVA.
Yeah. A couple of other in-state games happening on that opening weekend of college football, which we will certainly get more into when we revamp back in late July for our next podcast. VMI is going to open up at Toledo, and William and Mary will open up at Bucknell. Now, the interesting thing about William and Mary's schedule is a week after that, September 8th, they will travel to Blacksburg to take on the Virginia Tech Hokies. So, William and Mary, they were a very good team this past year, and you look at two of their first four games at Virginia Tech and at James Madison. That is certainly a tough way to open up that schedule. As we look at, the Colonial Athletic Association, which has JMU, Richmond, William and Mary, I would be willing to make the argument that the three toughest teams in that conference are all from the state of Virginia. JMU last year went to the championship game. William and Mary last year was absolutely great. And Richmond, just a little over 500 last year, they're kind of on the uptick. So, Chris, trying to adjust the webcam, it's actually fixated on this right now. We're having too many issues, so it's not even connected to the computer.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. So, by the way, if you're watching on Facebook, I know you can only see me. Again, this was part of the technical difficulties we were having earlier. We have removed the webcam from the desktop. The webcam has been sacked. It has been fired. We no longer will be using this webcam during our broadcast. It has been terminated, effective immediately from the Virginia Sports Network.
Great.
Can we get an update on that game?
They didn't want to see. They didn't want to see me anyway, so no problem. They can hear me. They said I have a face for radio anyway. Update on the game. No update. The man has advanced to third base. 2 outs now on the top of the fourth. Score is still 4-0, as they say in soccer.
I tell you, Liberty has played UVA before in baseball. They play about once or twice a year, and I swear every time they play, it's like Liberty just can't get runs in and get over the top to beat UVA. I don't know what it is about that game. This is a down year for UVA baseball. Like we said, 6-10 in the ACC. Liberty up there in Charlottesville just struggling to get anything going in the runs department. So certainly a sad day there if you're a Liberty fan. And it's not looking good as far as if Liberty will get that win. So we've been a little off the cuff today. Part of that was we expected Mike Mcdaniel would be on our podcast tonight, but Mike McDaniel is MIA at the moment. So not sure what is going on with him, but that is okay. We certainly appreciate you guys writing it out with us through all of our technical difficulties that we have endured on this Wednesday evening.
Now, one update from actually our last podcast. So last week we did an NFL draft.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in the NFL draft, and more specifically where guys from across the state should go in the NFL draft, go back and listen to last week's podcast. But what came of that since then, and actually this morning, USA Today Sports came out with an article for the top NFL draft sleeper picks. And actually, your guy, you're really high on him, Cal Luetta.
Oh, yeah.
Or La Luetta, or Lee Luetta, however you pronounce his last name. He was their number one sleeper pick mentioned. So maybe we want to talk a little bit more about Cal Luetta and his chances of being...
What is more likely? Him making it in the NFL is like... And by the way, by like making it, I would say Tyrod is kind of like the minimum bar of making it. You would maybe consider Tyrod a franchise quarterback for a year or two. He's going to get tossed around the league a little bit, but he's at least going to stay in for a while. What's the better chances? Kyle Luletta makes it, or we actually figure out how to pronounce his name?
We'll never figure out how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, we'll continue to pursue.
So, yeah, I would say him making it. Now, this is probably going to sound like a pretty low number, but if you consider the amount of quarterbacks that go into the NFL and never make it to where Tyrod is, then I think this is actually a pretty high number. And I'll say somewhere around 12 to 15% range of him actually making it, meaning starting like 4 seasons.
Well, and so much of this,
NFL.
by the way, depends on who picks him up. I mean,
very much.
You know, I don't think watching his game, he's not a strong arm passer. He's more of an accurate guy. I don't think he can work in, say, Cincinnati or Cleveland. I also don't think he can work if a defensive coach takes him. So, like, if Vance Joseph in Denver takes him, I don't think that's a great fit. Or if Todd Bowles takes him. But, you know, if he ends up in, let's say, Arizona, I think that could be a decent fit. Or if he ends up with Bill Belichick and, you know, he gets an offensive mind there with Josh McDaniels, I think that's a good fit.
That's obviously the best case scenario for him, where he's never going to play, but he's just going to learn for 4 years. And, you know, maybe, you know, Brady retires and he comes in, but, you know, most likely he'll be there for 3 or 4 years and get traded somewhere. You know, New England's a good fit for him. But like I said, I like also going behind Eli, learning for a couple of years and actually having a chance to become the starter, going to New Orleans, playing behind Drew Brees for a couple of years. I think that playing in that dome, it's like a quarterback's dream. With
and Sean Payton is an offensive genius. I mean, that's a great place for him to go.
Yep.
I mean, like, Drew Brees has been great, but a lot of Drew Brees, and people don't say this, a lot of Drew Brees is Sean Payton. So, you know, if Kyle Luletta gets paired up with Sean Payton, I think that is a great fit for him. And just the way Kyle throws the ball, it's very similar to Drew Brees' game. I do think New Orleans is a great fit for him. I just think, you know, you have to be careful. There's some teams that don't work. I don't think he works anywhere where he's going to be expected to play year one. You know, so I don't think like the Jets work. Again, a lot of this is going to be based on fit. All right. Well, listen, we anticipated having Mike McDaniel on. We did not. I do apologize for that. I will get on Mike's case about that. Mike has been on our podcast a number of times. This is the first time he's ever stood me up. It's not good. All right, I do appreciate you guys joining us. We will, again, be back in late July. We should have some pretty exciting news for you then. As far as some exciting events happening with the podcast coming up this fall, I'm very excited about. So we will give more of that to you at that time. In the meantime, thank you guys for joining us, sticking with us. We will be back then. You guys have a great night. This is Virginia Sports Report.